Yo, you guys, this is another video. I hope you like it. Today we have a special guest. We are going to be talking to the host of Chatsports. Chatsports is a YouTube channel that talks about every single team in the NFL, in the NBA, and in the baseball, that kind of sports. But today we got a special guest that is the host of the Los Angeles Rams podcast, and he should be in here shortly. And yeah, guys, let's get it done.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, how you doing, Jackson?
Good. I'm so sorry, man. It was just a crazy day at work this week with the draft, and I was running behind. I meant to text you, but I just didn't have a chance to get to my phone.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I totally understand.
Appreciate you being understanding.
So yeah, how was your day so far?
It's been great, man. It's been awesome. Just getting ready for the draft this week. It's been pretty busy. How about you?
Same here. I'm getting ready for the draft and stuff like that. So
yeah. 100%. All right.
Let's get to it.
Let's do it.
So, how did you get involved with Chatsports?
With Chatsports, that's a good question. So they are a Dallas-based company. I got involved with them. So I've been doing content independently. Here, let me turn my ring light up a little bit so I'm not as dark. There we go. I've been doing content independently on TikTok and on Instagram for a number of years. And my then girlfriend, now fiance, actually connected me with someone she had gone to college with, named Trace Gerard. Shout out to Trizzy Trace if he's watching this. And he worked for Chatsports.
Okay.
And she had worked with him a little bit in some media aspects. They worked for Barstool together when they were both at Arkansas. And so she said, like, hey, like, this might be an opportunity for you. She sent my content over to him. He looked at it, liked it a lot, sent it up to the bosses, and they ended up hiring me a couple months after that. And since then, I've taken over their Chiefs channel and their Rams channel. So that's primarily what I do. Yeah.
So let's talk about the two teams that you mentioned. The Rams. I know they don't have a first round pick this year either.
They do. They have 13.
Oh, they have the 13. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, from Atlanta. They made that trade with Atlanta last year, so they still have 13. They traded 29 for Trent McDuffie to the Kansas City Chiefs, actually, which was funny. I was covering both of those teams, covered both ends of that trade.
So I know last year the Rams needs were in the secondary, but they did fix that in the offseason in free agency and a trade. So what are they going to do with that 13th overall pick?
It's a really good question. You know, I think I do think originally, to your point, before the Trent McDuffie trade, before the signing of Jalen Watson, the primary idea was like, let's go secondary there. Let's reinforce the corner room. But I really feel like they wanted to go trusted veterans there. That's kind of been the long-term strategy that we've seen Les Snead and Sean McVay employ, is like, hey, you know, rookies are great. We like young players, but we'd way rather have guys who we've seen do it in other systems. So I think they employed that again with Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson at the position that mattered most, that they knew was the biggest need. So I think now they've opened themselves up to do to kind of go best player available if they don't have a receiver that they love. But I think primarily what they'd like to do is add a third option at receiver behind Puka and Devontae Adams to just kind of continue racking up points with Matthew Stafford, keep that MVP flow we saw last season rolling.
Well, you mentioned Puka. Is he going to be ready for the season?
I believe so. From everything that I've heard, I know he was at. They started their OTAs today. The Rams reported today. I know you reported today. I've heard he's doing well as he continues to progress through the program. I'm not going to speak on too many specifics of that whole situation, but I do believe that he will be there week one. I haven't seen any reason to believe not, or haven't heard any reasons to believe not. I think he's doing quite well.
And there is a quarterback in the draft that went to the Rams. I would love to get your opinion on it. It's Ty Simpson.
Yeah. A lot of people have definitely been connecting Ty Simpson to the Rams. I know I saw that report today. I think it was Todd McShay who said if they hadn't traded 29, they were looking at Ty Simpson at the 29th overall pick. And that didn't surprise me much when I saw it. But I think as things stand now, holding 13, that feels really early to go Ty Simpson. Yeah. But then 61, which is their next pick in the second round, I don't think he's going to be there for you. I think by that point, Cleveland, Arizona, any number of other teams who might want to take a stab here, they might have traded up or just selected him at their picks. So I don't think he makes it back around to them at 61. And I don't think they're that in love with him that they would trade up to go grab him, which I think is kind of the only way that they would be able to do it, right? Is if you moved up from 61 to go get him somewhere in the early second or late first. So I don't think Ty Simpson is actually the most likely quarterback. I'll give you a name to watch at quarterback for the Rams, though. Garrett Nussmeier. Garrett Nussmeier is the name to watch. He's been clearly of interest to the Rams. They went to a private workout with him. I know they did a little bit of work with him at the combine as well. They do seem to be quite interested in the LSU quarterback. I think something interesting about Les Snead and Sean McVay is injury issues. Yeah. They treat them differently prospect to prospect. At times they've been totally scared off on some guys with them, it seems, but on other times they're willing to take a chance. Like Puka Nacua himself is a great example of that. Had some pretty interesting injuries at BYU that knocked him down a lot of people's boards. Didn't seem to scare the Rams that much. Obviously, Garrett Nussmeier comes with some injury concerns, but it does seem to be someone that they're still interested in, or at least still doing their homework on.
Okay. And I was wondering, what are the feelings around the Rams organization about Matt Stafford coming back? Is he going to play for another year or another 2 years?
So it's an interesting conversation. We heard today that there is some progress on a new deal, I think is the word or the phrasing that I want to use here, because we don't know exactly what that's going to look like, right? Yeah. I think from what I've heard, it's going to be one of two things. It all is up to Matt at the end of the day. I think the Rams are comfortable doing whatever he wants to do, but it's going to be at the end of the day his decision to make on if he feels comfortable committing to multiple years with them. They'll commit to multiple years with him right now. If he tells them I'm ready to play in 2027, I think they would put pen to paper on a deal that makes him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL for the next 2 years. But if he tells them I need to make that decision after the season, which I think would make perfect sense, given his health issues, his age, it would absolutely be 100% understandable if Matthew Stafford says, I can't make that decision until I've played an entire year of football and I know what my body's going to feel like at this time next year. I can't tell you right now that I'm going to be ready. I think they'll just give him what they'll do. I think is tear up his existing contract. They'll get rid of the void years and they'll give him a new deal that makes him for this next season the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. He'll outnotch, I think it's Dak Prescott currently at number 1 with the $60 million. He'll outnotch that probably at 61. And they'll just let it ride. If he wants it, though, I think a 2-year, $122 million contract is there for him.
Ooh, that's a big contract.
It's a ton of money, my friend. It's a ton of money.
That is
Must
a lot
be nice,
money.
right? Must be nice.
I would take half.
Hey, yeah. Throw a mill my way, friend.
Yeah. So we're done with the Rams, but what do you think about the Chiefs? What do they look like?
That's also an interesting conversation. So I think right now with Kansas City, at this point, you're primarily honing in on conversations with Arizona about trading up for that third overall pick. I think that's what I would really like to see them do. And I think that's what they want to do. We've heard reports. I know Todd McShay sounded off today. Johnny Venerable down in Phoenix has really been pushing it, that conversation has been going between those two sides, or at least that we've seen some exploratory talks might be the right word to describe it, between those two teams about maybe making a move. And I think if I'm Kansas City, I'm coming up to get whoever I like more between Ruben Bain and David Bailey, because they need somebody on defense that can get after the quarterback. Let's get some sacks next year, because that was the issue for anyone who watched Chiefs football. They could not touch a quarterback last season.
But what about their secondary? I know they lost the whole secondary to the Rams.
Yes, they did. It's funny, right? The two teams that I cover kind of traded entire secondary units. And that's a great question, because on paper, it looks like a huge need. On paper, you might even say it's the biggest need for this Chiefs team. But what Chiefs fans will tell you is what they've done better than maybe any team in the NFL over the last few seasons is hit on late to mid-round corners. And I think Brett Veach trusts his ability to go after that position on day 2, on day 3, use your 3rd round pick on a corner, use your 4th and 5th round picks on a corner, supplement that room with younger guys. But they definitely trust their coaching and their development process. I think Dave Merritt, their defensive back coach, is one of the most underrated assistant coaches and positional coaches in the entire NFL. He's done fantastic work with everybody from Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson. You go back further, Shamari Connor, L'Jarius Sneed, Noel Williams this past season, just countless names of guys who've thrived at corner in Kansas City. A lot of those being mid to late round draft picks where they haven't had to go after that position in the first round. Really, the only name on that list that's a first round pick is Trent McDuffie himself. So I think what they'll ultimately do with that position is continue their long-term philosophy there, which is trust their gut, trust their instinct, and trust their development process on guys in the mid-rounds.
Okay. And Patrick Mahomes did get injured last year. Is he going to be ready for the season, or is he going to miss some games?
I do believe, as of right now, and Chiefs fans, this is what I believe. So don't quote me on it. I think he'll be there week 1. You got to think about the guy that he is and the competitor that he is. And from what I've heard, he's just such an animal when it comes to rehab. Like, just wants to do everything 3 times when they ask him to do it twice. Wants to push the limits on everything, wants to go further than the doctors say he should be able to, wants to get back faster than anybody tells him is reasonable. And I honestly think it's the Chiefs organization telling him, like, Patrick, you got to be careful here while he's chomping at the bit. You know what I mean? And that's just the kind of animal that he is. Like, he's a different beast. And I do think he'll be back in week 1, because I think as much as they want to be careful with him, I don't think anyone could keep him off the field at the end of the day. I think that's the guy he is.
So do you think it was a mistake on the Chiefs' part to go out and get Kenneth Walker and pay him all that money?
I do not. I think if you were Kansas City last season, you had 2 big issues to solve. And they were, you got to be able to get after the passer better. I think that was issue number 1. But number 2 was you had the least explosive run game in the entire NFL. Of your 4 explosive 20-plus yard runs, 3 of them came from Patrick Mahomes himself.
Wow.
Only 1 from any member of the running back room. And that's a fun stat. That's a stat Chiefs fans know well. I don't think they find it quite as fun. And I think what Kenneth Walker brings and what we saw in the Super Bowl alone, right? You go back to that. How many 10, 15 plus yard chunk runs did he give Seattle? And that's the presence that they were missing. That's the pressure that was all on Mahomes' shoulders last season that is now alleviated a little bit. You can push off some of that to Kenneth Walker, and I think it's worth every penny to maximize what Patrick Mahomes is with a steady ground game that they can trust to be explosive, to generate those big plays for him.
That is true, but would you compare the Chiefs O-line to the Seattle's O-line?
A great point. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are building something pretty solid along the front. I think, you look at the unit that they have, and we actually talked about this in today's Chiefs Report video. We were talking about their offensive line and whether or not drafting along the offensive line is realistic for them in the first round. Yeah. And I think, to your point, there is a weakness there, right? You look at the right tackle spot, and I think it stands out. Yeah. And to a lot of people will tell you your offensive line is only as good as its weakest member. And if you subscribe to that philosophy, then I think you could say that the Kansas City Chiefs don't have an incredibly strong offensive line if Jalen Moore is the standard that we're working off of. But I do think Jalen Moore in his best moments can be a plus starter. And I think when you look at the guy next to him, that's the best right guard in the NFL in Trey Smith. And then you go to the interior, the center. That's the best center in the NFL, in my opinion, and Creed Humphrey. Left guard, Kingsley, he's been developing really nicely over the last couple seasons. I think he took some big steps forward. And then you get to the other tackle spot, and that's where you have more questions about Josh Simmons, that first-round pick from last season. I see you smiling. It's been, you've seen those reports over the last couple of weeks, and Josh Simmons, it is kind of interesting, right? Like you hear some of these people talking about, like, do the Chiefs trust Josh Simmons?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Mm-hmm. And when I hear that, it immediately raised some red flags for me, right? Because I watched Josh Simmons last season, and I was like, that dude was rock solid when he was on the field, but it is kind of a when he was on the field situation. Obviously, he had the personal issue that knocked him out for, I want to say it was 4 games last year, maybe 5 games. Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you. I know he went out in the Lions game like right before the start of Sunday Night Football. But I think that maybe more becomes the concern for Kansas City is that going to be a regular issue? He also had an injury last season that knocked him out to finish the year. So significant missed time. But I feel like when Josh Simmons was on the field, you saw a guy that showed flashes of being a franchise left tackle.
Yeah, you did.
So if you can get more of that, then I trust that group. Maybe they want to add somebody as depth for the right tackle spot or as a replacement for Jalen Moore. But I do think they have a unit that can move the needle and move the rock for Kenneth Walker, to answer your question. I think you run behind Josh Simmons as he continues to develop. You run behind the middle of that line and Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. I mean, those are ballers right there.
And the last question is, I'm not sure about the wide receiver core they have.
Yeah. I'm right there with you, my friend. I also have serious questions about the receiver core. I wonder if the Kansas City Chiefs as an organization feel the same way we do, though. Some of the things they've said this offseason seem to indicate that they do trust that unit and that they trust the guys there to develop. I don't know that Xavier Worthy has shown you enough, though.
No.
I don't know that Rashee Rice can be trusted as at times he's unbelievable on the field. At times he's a little inconsistent. And then also you just got to deal with the personal element of Rashee Rice as well and who he is off the field and whether or not you want to give that guy a long-term contract. I wouldn't, to be honest with you. I think, to be honest with you, and I've said this a couple times on the Chiefs Report, and people laugh, but the guy I'm most excited about in that room is actually Tyquan Thornton. Who I think, I think he showed flashes last season of being a really nice deep threat for this Kansas City Chiefs team. I think when you can consider the contract that he's on and what they were able to get him back for, what he showed last year and also his age, I do get excited about the fact that he could be that missing deep threat for this team. But I think this is a good class to add more receivers in, whether it's 1 or 2. And I'd love to see Jalen Royals do something. He didn't get anything.
Yeah, he did nothing.
Yeah, the 4th round pick just vanished.
Well, there is a free agent out there named Tyreek Hill.
There is.
So you think the Chiefs would entertain bringing back?
I think if he was healthy, I think they would do it in a heartbeat. I just think at the end of the day, it's like if you sign Tyreek Hill right now, does he play for you in week 9? Does he play for you in week 10? Does he play for you at all next year?
Yeah, that is true.
Does he ever play again? I mean, like, I think there are fair questions to ask.
There's a lot of questions
About where Tyreek Hill is at in that recovery journey. I know he had a surgery in February,
if
I remember correctly. Another I think reconstructive one would be the word for it.
Yeah.
So that's a long road to recovery. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs are keeping tabs on that road to recovery. And I know they've got his number and vice versa. So if he gets healthy, then I think maybe they'd make that happen. But I think right now they need guys who can run and catch the ball in week 1. And I don't know if Tyreek Hill is going to do that at all next year. But I get why people bring it up. It would be fun to put it back together. You know what I mean? And maybe in 2027, if he's back to fully healthy and still wants to give it another spin, they would be the team. I think you could definitely put plus odds on them being the team to bring him back, I would say.
And I don't think it's going to cost that much money to bring it in.
No, I think especially if he has to sit out all of 2026, I think he would take anything to get back in the league. And I mean, like, he's made plenty of money at this point. He's got over $100 million in career earnings. He's set for life.
Yeah, he's set.
It'd be about pride at that point.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely, my friend. Thank you so much for having me on anytime in the future. I really, really enjoyed this.
I did too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. You have a great night, okay?
Yeah, you too.